I got Unreal in Fortnite mainly by learning how to use the map properly, finding the best loadout that works for me, and developing a strategy that takes me to a good placement and some kills every single game. Now, this video is going to be broken up into many parts that you can skip through, but let's go ahead and start with the PC players, how to optimize your game before we even open it. So go ahead and open your config file for Fortnite. It's going to be in your local app data. There's also going to be like the destination for my PC posted on the screen. It's probably going to be similar to yours. Make sure that you pick a resolution that you want, not one that's in the game. There's not that many resolutions to pick from in the game. And also, once you do this, make sure that after big updates you kind of check it again. I didn't really notice that it changed me back to like a 16:9 resolution when I had a 4:3 for a while. Honestly, not a huge deal, but I've always played 4:3 in first-person shooter games. Two reasons I really like 4:3. One, you're going to get higher FPS. It's going to be a lower resolution. The second reason I really like it is when it's all stretched out, the models look a little bit wider and I guess in a way easier to hit. It might be more psychological than actually helpful, but for me, that's what I'm used to. Here's some of my video settings if you have a lower-end PC. I'm not going to go into everything. I'm just going to kind of show you guys, but make sure that you guys are trying to get the highest FPS for your monitor. You essentially just want the max FPS at all times. My recommendation for you guys is try and get your FPS to a point that is, you know, at least 10 to 20 FPS higher than whatever you're capping your FPS at. Make sure you cap your FPS close to the max refresh rate of your monitor. So for example, I have 144 Hertz. My computer typically doesn't even get 144 in Fortnite, so I just cap it at 144. If you have a nicer computer, you have a 144 Hertz monitor, you could do like, I think you can cap at like 160. In the config, you might be able to be a little bit more precise of where you cap it. You're gonna have to look at the config file yourself. Make sure everything is giving you the best performance possible, because honestly, we could care less about how it looks. There is something else you can do. So in the launcher itself, you'll go to Library, and once you open your library, you're going to go ahead and go over to Fortnite. Make sure you click on those three dots. You click on the three dots, go ahead and press Options. When you get here, make sure you pre-download streamed assets. Essentially what this is basically there's going to be things that Fortnite wants to download to show you whenever you encounter it in the game, whether it's skins or cosmetics, things like that, emotes. If you pre-download everything that it has to show you for the current patch, like up to date, you're never going to have to worry about some random lag spike when the game has to download some sort of asset. Before I talk about how I think the rank system works from all the information I've read about and from my experience of the game, let's talk about how to practice the game. So there is an awesome mode called Ninja's Aim Dojo. I'm going to post this in the description below. Ninja's Aim Dojo is a great way to warm up. Now, if you're newer to Fortnite, I would suggest definitely play the game. Use the Aim Dojo because it sets up cool scenarios where, you know, especially like tracking people while they're jumping and stuff like that. It's hard to like practice that for like 10 minutes straight. Think of how much better you would get like super fast. So that's why I like the dojo. You can practice these types of situations. You can use different guns and things like that. Now, I haven't done everything in the dojo, but it has a whole bunch of different modes, and I would highly recommend it. Alright, let's talk about how the rank system works. This is the most ambiguous thing when it comes to Fortnite ranks, because, like, honestly, what actually matters, sometimes you play good and you only gain 1%, sometimes you play okay, you gain 5%, sometimes you die right away, you lose 0, other times you get 2 kills, you lose, like, 10 to 15, you know what I mean? Like, it feels random, and it sort of is random. So the big two things that matter, in my opinion, is placement. What ranks kill you and what ranks you kill. So if you kill someone who's above you, so like let's say you're in gold elo, you kill someone in plat, you're going to get a significant amount of percent. But if you die to someone that's in bronze, that's going to be like a huge negative curve to that percent for the game, if that makes sense. For the majority of each game, that stuff is kind of uncontrollable to a certain point. I mean, besides the game modes, which I'm going to get into. So my advice is to focus on placements. My strategy I'm going to share with you guys will definitely help you get there. But essentially, imagine the game itself. Like, what is the purpose of the game? The purpose is to be number one, whether it's squad solos or duos, right? You're trying to get the victory royale, right? I could really care less if you get 10 kills and end up 15th place. Now, you're going to get a lot of percent. Hey, if you're someone who likes to hot drop, this video might not be for you. I'm not saying I'm a camper, per se, but essentially, you're trying to win the game. I don't think it really matters too much if you get like 5 kills and get 50th place. You're only going to gain a little bit of percent unless you're super lucky and happen to kill a bunch of Unreal players. Let's talk about the game modes you should play. So up until I would say like Diamond 2, you can go ahead and play squads and duos. Let's just say you're stuck in gold. I don't know, you've been playing not too long, you're a newer player. If you play squads, you have a better chance to rank up super fast because there's no restriction on how you make your parties in squad. For example, I played a game, we wiped a team, and I killed someone who was unranked, someone in bronze, someone who was unreal, and someone who was gold, and I think I only gained like 1% because those 3 people were like super low compared to my rank. But what I'm saying in squads is like, if you're that gold elo, there is a small chance that there's like an Unreal player out there partying with their friends who are in silver and bronze. So when you kill that Unreal player, it's going to give a huge spike to your percent for that game. Earlier on in your ranked climb, before Diamond, it's definitely going to be beneficial to play squads, just for that chance to kind of get that extra boost. Now I'm not, like you could easily win with your friends too. That's definitely a plus, you can play with your friends. But I think in terms of like the ranked system, if you're just going to play fill, which a lot of people do, they just play ranked fill, it's going to be beneficial because there's going to be that chance that you get those higher elo players in your game, whether it's champion or elite. They're going to be above you, but maybe the rest of their party is around your level. So I feel like there's kind of a luck factor when it comes to squads in that sense. Also, when it comes to squads, you're typically going to get more kills as a team, which is going to count towards your percent rank. So I think definitely for lower elo, try out squads. I think you'll rank up a lot faster, you'll have a lot of fun. You can also do duos. There's not going to be as much separation. Now you might get lucky and there's an Unreal player with a bronze player, but in squads it's more likely to like see that kind of mix of players. That's why I'm kind of recommending it for the lower elos. I think once you hit Diamond and higher, you only want to do solos and duos kind of for that same reason. So imagine you go into squads as a champion player. I've done this many times, and I deranked. So you go into squads, you guys get like 4 kills. Now, maybe some of those are elite players, but the reason you died is because you got shot by a gold player. That player is so far below you that those 4 kills that you got are basically worthless, right? So there's so much more RNG in squads. I would recommend avoiding it once you reach high elo, unless you really have like a dedicated group that you don't mind playing with and mentally you don't get like tired of them if they do bad and you won't get upset. I'm kind of like super competitive, so I would rather play solos, but if you do have that group, feel free to do it, but I will say it's a bit more risky. The next thing I want to talk about is the map itself. So how to read storms, how to read the map, how to know where to go to a certain extent. So storm 1 through 5, the circle is always going to go to the slow side. So for example, let's just imagine the storm is coming in. Now sometimes it's pretty even and you can't tell. In those situations, it's going to be harder to read the map. Typically, I think the first circle is based on where players drop. The least amount of players will be in the slow side. So before this first storm circle, let's just say you went way off, and you might be in the slow side. Now, sometimes if it's just like 1 or 2 players, they'll be outside the circle. That's typically what I see. So like if I go really far away, I'm going for an NPC, I'm making some sort of drop, and it happens to be super far away from the bus path, people aren't there, I'm going to be typically outside the circle or like, you know, in between the storm and the circle. I just have to move a little bit, and then typically I'll be in slow side. I think the very first circle, it's not random. The slow side is where the least amount of players are. They're trying to push the majority of players to the slow side. So storm 1 through 5, you're looking for the slow side, and honestly, if the side is slow enough on storm 1, you know exactly where to go. And we'll get more into the strat in just a second. But essentially, storm 1 through 5, slow side. After that, I've noticed that it's slightly random. Typically, you'll go to the slow side in the smaller circles, and then it's going to be like complete opposite. Yes, it's sort of the same concept where you're trying to move to the slow side. It's kind of like the next phase happens so quickly. So just once it's after like storm 6 out of 12 or like 7 out of 12, you're going to notice once you get to the slow side, it's going to be like, oh, now you're 250 meters away. So I recommend like storm 6 and over, go to like the fast side of the circle or just like where you think it wouldn't be, because typically when you go to that slow side, you can imagine at the start of the game, like I said, there's only going to be 1 or 2 people there. That's kind of what's going on. You're getting to the place where you know you need to be, but there's only you and maybe 1 other person there. Later in the game, you're going to have times where you kind of go to the fast side of the circle to be advantageous and try to get to that end game. But anyways, let's talk about the strategy real quick. So I talked about how ranked works, and we talked a little bit about like the purpose of the game. The purpose of the game is to win. It's not to get kills. It's not even to like try to get top 5. It's to get number 1. And of course, in that process, you're definitely going to pick up probably 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 kills. Now, you might have a game where you go crazy and you get like 15 kills. I think that's more common if you're like a pro player going into unranked and you're trying to do stuff like that. I can understand that. I think in normal ranked games, unless you're a hot dropper by choice, you'll win the game with typically less than 10 kills. So I think that's just to be expected. Alright, before we get into the strat that I like to use to win the game or just at least play super high and get a couple kills, every single game, I would say like 90% of the time, once I figured this out, I went from elite 33% to champion like 50% in the matter of like 2 days, and then I hit Unreal. Like, it was like almost every single game I was playing good. Now, don't get me wrong, there were times where I would die right away. RNG, bad guns, whatever it is, some sort of excuse, things happen, right? It's hard to get away from people sometimes. But I would say like my percent of games that were good went up to like 80% after I figured this all out. So let me talk about drop spots first. I'm going to mark some spots that I like on the map. And these are just general spots that I like because either 1, I know the area very well, or 2, there's an NPC there that I want to recruit, or 3, I know these spots well, and typically they're kind of more in the outskirts of the map, so it will be kind of far away from the bus path, which ensures that I'm going to have kind of a safe early looting phase, and if there are people near me, there's not going to be very many, so I can definitely go for fights. So it's definitely a win-win all around for some of these spots. Now, these are just my personal spots. Now, the reason I don't hot drop when I get to high elo. Now, if I'm playing unranked or playing with you guys, viewers, I'll drop wherever you want. I don't care. But when it comes to high elo, you have to realize maybe you will be better than your lobby. Like, there's times where you will be better than your lobby, but you have to imagine, like, these players in Unreal, Champion, even Elite, are good players, right? They know how to aim, they know how to shoot the guns, they know how to what guns do what. So, I feel like eliminating as much RNG as you can is going to be the best solution just to kind of move yourself up the leaderboard and give yourself a chance to even win the game. Because think about it, if you were trying to win the game, not trying to get a million kills, not trying to... If you were trying to win the game, why do kills even matter that much? And especially early on, like I said, there's too much RNG, and you might end up dying, and you might end up losing percent. That's why I don't like to hot drop. I don't like to hot drop in squads, duos, or anything when it comes to rank. The only time I will hot drop is if it's a location that I know very well, and it happens to be hot due to the bus path. Now, typically, I will try to avoid that anyways, just so I can ensure that I have a good chance to win the game. But you have to imagine, like, you're starting from no gear, nothing at all, and if you're playing zero build like I am, then you pretty much have no defense if you're caught. So if someone lands just before you and they happen to grab that AR and you have nothing to defend yourself, you just have to run away and get lucky, and that's how you end up being like 92nd place. You don't want that, okay? So these are the drop spots that I like. There's a million drop spots you can pick. These are just some that I like. Some of them have NPCs. Some of the NPCs have been changed. Like Rebel Roost used to be the most broken NPC. Now, let's finally get into the strategy that got me to Unreal. So before I give all the juicy details, we gotta talk about items. There's a specific loadout that I go for every single game, and if you get this loadout, it increases your chances of winning by, I would say, like 70%. Like, if you're a decent above average player in high elo and you have this loadout, I can guarantee you will do well in the game. You will at least get top 10. You can get top 10 easily. You can disengage any fight. You'll be able to fight anyone. So there's 3 items I go for, and really I kind of have like 5 items in mind already. But essentially the main 3 items, the best 3 items in the game: Sniper, best weapon in the game, easily by far. Second, Grapple Blade, and 3, EMP. Now the EMP, great for later in the game, when there's like, let's say 14 people left, you have to move 250 meters to that next circle. That's kind of when you use the EMP. To add on to that, the EMP by itself is not the best item, but combined with the Grapple Blade, so you can Grapple Blade into a tree, then EMP, kind of watch everyone. No one's going to look into a tree, a dark green tree, and look for a faint dark green outline of someone. So like there's times when you're going to be practically invisible to people, especially when you can just sit there for a second. So Grapple Blade plus EMP is literally probably the most broken survival tools. Now, Sniper is a must. If you don't have a Sniper, essentially just don't try to pick fights unless you're already close to them. Even then, you can hit people with the Sniper. Sniper is just that good. It's quick, it's easy to use, the scope is fast. My rule of thumb is assume everyone in the game has a Sniper if they're trying to fight you. So if you don't have a Sniper and you're not super close to them, don't fight them. If you try and shoot them with your AR, it's gonna be super easy for them to just headshot you with their Sniper. Now there's gonna be situations where you're gonna be like, okay, I can take this fight, but be very careful when you do that because the Sniper is better than any gun. Even close range, you still have to be kind of careful. Now you're probably asking, what are the other two items that I like to hold? Now I like to hold an AR. I used to like to hold the SMG. Now, I use all the items in the game, don't get me wrong, but my dream loadout is an AR. Typically, it's a Nemesis. I don't really like the Striker. It doesn't do that much damage. Nemesis, in my opinion, is like a better Enforcer. This is kind of just preference. I prefer the Nemesis, then Frenzy, because we're playing no build, of course. Frenzy is like a must. You're going to have even if it's a Gray Frenzy. A Gray Frenzy, 2 shots, I think it does, like, more damage than a Golden Pump 1 shot. Unless it's a headshot, it's a little bit different. But essentially, the Frenzy is going to be your friend. It's far better than the Pump when it comes to no build. In builds, obviously the Pump is a little bit better. The gameplay is a little bit different. But essentially, I get it. Nemesis AR, Frenzy, Sniper, EMP, Blade. And you're wondering, why no heals? So, here's the thing. If you're playing to win the game, you're going to eliminate some players. When you eliminate those players, typically they're going to hold heals. On top of that, there's coolers around the map, and there's also barrels all around the map. Coolers are going to have Flopper or Shieldfish. Those are very fast, quick heals. You don't need to be holding medkits in solo. Now, I'm mostly talking about solo gameplay. If you're playing squads, you know, my loadout might look a little bit different. This is mostly talking about solo gameplay, so don't get that confused. Typically in solo, that's my loadout: AR, Frenzy, Sniper, EMP, Blade. So now let's talk more about the strategy. So we're trying to win. That's the main goal. We're trying to win the game. So here's what I do. I go to one of my spots, and typically it's away from the bus path. So I have many spots that I am aware of, that I'm familiar with. I go to one of these spots based on the bus path, and I wait for Storm 1. Once I see Storm 1, I would say about like 80% of the time you can already tell where the game is going to end, because it's going to be near the slow side. It's not going to be exactly the point of the slow side, but there's going to be like condensed area around that slow side where the game ends. So what I do is I loot. Hopefully I get one of those 3 items, whether it's a Blade, a Sniper, or EMP. EMP is more common, so typically EMP is the item that I get, but you want a good AR that you like, a good Frenzy, some sort of mobility if you can't find a Blade. So typically Impulse is more common from what I don't know the actual drop rate. You might find Flowberry Juice. Both of those are good for mobility. By the way, if you pick a spot near a jump pad, like if that's your loot spot, make sure to use the Flowberry or Flowberry Fizz before you hop on the jump pad, because you'll go super high. But essentially, get some loot and do it fast. Do it fast. If you fight someone, if someone's near you and you fight them, okay, good. You probably took them out. But your main goal at this point is to find a vehicle and get to the end game as fast as you can. So sometimes it might be all the way across the map. So you want to end up there and then keep on looting. So don't worry too much about, like, you know, getting a medallion or something. That doesn't have to do anything with winning the game. It's just a fun side thing to do. And they're very helpful in the end game. But like middle game, why would I want anyone to know where I'm at? It's not that helpful. Now, Vault is good. Don't get me wrong. But your main goal is to get to the end game as fast as possible. By reading the map, you already know where to go. Once you get there, you're going to try and loot and just kind of, you know, kind of chill out. This is kind of where, like, you're camping a little bit. But essentially, if you're looting around, you're probably going to run into people. At this time, you can consider hiring an NPC. I would say there's 3 NPCs that are quite good, other than the healing ones. In solo, the healing one's not as good. When you have a bigger group and more people can be healed, the healing NPCs are really good. In solos, they're not that great. I would say the 3 NPCs that are really good are going to be the snipers who scan, and there's also some more combat NPCs, and in my champion Unreal games, I've actually had the NPC get kills by itself. Now, that's with the combat ones. The sniper ones typically don't hit people, but the scan is, like, it's probably the best thing that an NPC can do for you in solos. Because, I mean, imagine the healing NPC. There's not going to be too many moments where you run away with 10 HP and not die. So, you can't really rely on this thing to heal you. Now, I might be wrong. There might be times where you're in the middle of combat and it just heals you at like the right time. But I would imagine that this is going to be better for when you have a squad and it's going to splash your whole team. I would mostly go for an NPC that scans if you're going to go for one, or a combat NPC like at the train station over here. This NPC, in my opinion, has been really lucky for me. I would say overall the best NPC you could possibly get for a solo game is going to be the scans. Because, I mean, it's wall hacks. Let's go. I mean, let's be honest, guys. Wall hacks is broken. Alright, so now it's probably Storm 2 or 3. You're in the end game. Hopefully you have some of the loot that you need. Now, if you don't have a sniper, you're not fighting. You're just trying to survive. And hopefully later on, you can get a sniper. If you don't have any mobility, make sure you have a car. And if you have mobility and a sniper, maybe you don't have the perfect loadout yet, but you have both of those things, mobility and sniper, what you need to look for is a G-Wagon. So G-Wagon is easily, I don't know if that's actually what they call it, but I've heard people call it that. Anyways, it's the best vehicle in the game by far. There's 4 seats you can sit in, so if you have to kill time, you can kind of angle the car kind of like on a hill, sit in the car, and it's going to be very hard for the enemies to see you, especially if your skin is kind of, you know, has black in it. You'll kind of blend in with the car a little bit more, if that makes sense. So you want to find a G-Wagon, has the most HP. It's not the fastest. Trying to win the game in solo, it's going to be the best vehicle. Now, the best vehicle to escape is definitely the dirt bike. The sports car is the worst vehicle in the game. Do not use it. And also, they have hoverboards now. That might actually be better than the motorcycle when it comes to escape. But I will say this, I like the hoverboard and motorcycle or dirt bike because you can reload your guns while driving. So that's a huge plus. The sports car is easily the worst. It has not that much HP. It's easy to shoot. And I know it has the boost feature, but it's so easy to shoot and just kill. You can pretty much kill it with like one clip of AR. G-Wagon definitely takes more than that. Now moving into late game, at this point you've been in the spot that is going to be near the late game. You want to start moving to that circle as fast as possible. Typically people are going to sit in that area where it's the circle, in between the circle, and then the storm. People are going to be that in-between spot a lot of times. So you want to try and get to that circle as fast as not all the time. I would say more than half the time you want to be in that circle first so you can watch people come in, you can snipe them, you can track where they are, because knowing where the people are at the end of the game is the most important thing. If there's 5 people left, and including you, so there's 4 other people, if you know where they're at, you can win the game easily. If you don't know where they're at and you're just running around, there's a high chance they're just like waiting in the circle somewhere, or they have high ground or something, and they're going to get you. Right? You can't just run around like you're Mr. Savage the whole game and just try, like, just, you know, rely on skill. Sometimes these players are going to be better than you or the same level as you, but they have some sort of advantage, whether it's they know where you're at, or they already have high ground, or they have some sort of utility. So it's best to play it safe, hop in a vehicle, get to that circle early, and play it from there. Alright guys, to summarize, if you're in lower elo, you can pick squads, and you might rank up a little bit faster. Once you get to about Diamond, you want to start playing solos or duos. Solos is probably going to be the easiest once you get the hang of it, and the strategy is essentially watching the map, getting to that end game, avoiding all the RNG that could potentially like bring your rank down, because once you get into those higher elos, like, you need like 7th place or better to gain any percent. Like, if you had 0 kills, you get like 10th place in champion, you typically are going to gain nothing, right? So you need to give yourself the best chance in order to rank up. This season is pretty tough when it comes to ranked and you haven't figured it out yet. So make sure you're always trying to get to that end game, you're watching the map, you're getting the loot, you want 3 items, at least 2. Now you can change up this loadout, this is just a loadout I like, but it's AR, Frenzy, then the 3 important things, Sniper, EMP, Blade. Blade and Sniper, best 2 items in the game. You have to have them if you want a chance to win. Otherwise, you're going to have to play very, very, very passively and just hope that players drop them. Because honestly, if you don't have a Blade and no build, you're probably going to die unless you have 6 impulses, which is fine. You know, there's definitely the downside of Blade, but I think overall for no build, Blade's the best. But anyways, you're playing to that end game. You're just trying to loot. You're taking kills as they come. Once you get to the later of the end game, and you know it's like 15 people or less. You're trying to get to those circles early. You don't really want to hang out in the storm too much because eventually the tick's going to get to like 5, 8, 10. You don't really want to be sitting in the storm at those times because that's going to be a lot. And with my loadout, I'm not carrying any heals, so this might be a little bit different strategy than maybe your strategy or someone else's strategy. This is the one that worked for me to get to Unreal. Anyways, guys, this was a lot of talking. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and if this video gets 1,000 likes, I'll try my best to get Unreal in builds. I don't really play builds, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully you guys can benefit from this video if you're a build or no build player. But anyways, guys, that's it. I'll see you in the next one.